There are shows in this world that we will never fully understand, except Ghost Adventures. We have watched every episode to build our obsession, our fandom.
Watching alongside each other because no one we know really gives a damn. Watching Zach and crew catch groundbreaking proof of the paranormal, inspiring us to explore our own interest in otherworldly phenomena. This is our podcast. We are Paranormal Putas.
Why are you looking at me like that? You make me nervous. You're giving me the eyes. Bro. Oh, well, let me start with, hey, everybody, it's me, Leah.
And it's me, Bethany.
And we're the Paranormal Putas. And bro, I got like a ball in my stomach. And I don't know if it's because I need a poop or because our next guest is so fucking major.
I know what you mean. I'm totally like starstruck right now.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody, we're super fucking pumped for this one. We're bringing on Tammie Chavez of Hollyweird Paranormal.
Holy fuck. We're just so glad that Tammie answered our message and our email, and that she's just the coolest. So we're very thankful to have her on. And yeah, man, if you don't know who Tammie is or Hollyweird Paranormal, then we hope that this is an awesome intro that's really going to get you invested, because she's just so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So we hope you all enjoyed Tammie of Hollyweird Paranormal. Tammie, again, thank you so much. Tammie of Hollyweird Paranormal, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're super excited to have you. So if you don't mind saying hey to everybody.
Hi, guys. I'm Tammie from Hollyweird Paranormal, and I'm also a paranormal puta as well. So we've already clear the air out of that one. Yeah.
No, we love that. And we also love, like, pretty much when you came on with some of the first words out of your mouth were Zach Bagans. And we don't know if you're aware, but half of our podcast is dedicated to Zach Bagans. So we do a full-blown rewatch, and we want to talk about that.
Oh, of course. Well, I worked with Ghost Adventures for a year, and I got to meet Zach and the gang and their producer. So I have a bit of chisme.
Oh my God.
Un poquito de chisme.
If some stuff needs to be off record, you just tell us, but we still want to know. Yeah. I'll sign your NDA. I want to know.
What NDA?
So yeah, no, and we also saw that you had the opportunity to be on Patty's show, Patty Negri, and we love her anytime that she's on Ghost Adventures. So we pretty much just like kind of fangirled out with your connection to this crew that we've been watching for years.
Oh my gosh. Well, now that I know that, I'm going to have her get on your show.
Oh my God.
No, I love her. That's my witch, man. That is my girl. Like,
don't play with me. Don't play with me.
Who's massively supportive, especially with women in the paranormal, is Patty Negri.
Yes.
And I'm sure, like, when I send you her email, like, for her podcast, I'm sure she's going to be happy to join your podcast. She's really sweet.
Oh, she's
really, and she loves Zach, so she will definitely love the support for him too. And but she's a girl's girl. Like, she's a witch's witch,
yes.
She's really great. I love her.
Yeah, and your interview with her was so fun to watch too. Y'all seem like such good friends and stuff, so it was just fun to watch y'all like bounce off each other and just chat. We were like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah. I met her during an investigation here. Like, it was a while back, and I fangirled myself because I've always watched her on television. And she is exactly who you meet in person. That's what I love. So there's nothing fake about her. And she's really sweet, really kind, and really funny. Like, we had a joke. Like, she had these big hoops that had these, like, designs. It was like some sort of Nordic design, her witchy design. I was like, Patty, oh my God, you know what they say, the bigger the hoop, the bigger the witch.
Witch, exactly, yeah.
And she was like, processing. She's just like, oh my God, I get it now. She started cracking up, and it was like this inner joke.
That is so fantastic. I love that so much. That is just so cool to hear. And she definitely gives off that energy. So anytime we watch her, get to hear her talk, that's definitely the vibe that she gives off. So you can tell that she is 100% what she puts out, and that's just so cool. Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah. But Zach.
Oh, the baggage.
The Zaddy Bagans.
Really funny because so when I started working with his producers almost a year ago, they were stalking our podcast. So a lot of our listeners were noticing how like, hey guys, like typing, did you notice that every time you guys cover a location in your podcast, Ghost Adventures covers it? And I was like, I don't know, because I haven't been really keeping up with the season. And I go on my Discovery app. I'm like, oh, we just talked about that. And I kid you not, like 2 days after I, stalked Discovery and stalked their season, I get an email from their producer. And he was like, hey, I'm the producer for Ghost Adventures, and we've been listening to your podcast. I was like, freaking knew it. And we just need help looking for locations. Would you mind, helping us and work with us? I was like, absolutely, of course.
Yes.
Like, hold on. I was like, hold on. Let me just regroup. I'm having a slight panic attack right now. I'm like, is this for real? So yeah, because our podcast, we cover a lot of stuff that are beyond like the Black Dahlia stories, the Marilyn Monroe tales. Like we love going off the beaten path of stories and places that no one really knows about in LA. So of course, when things are already checked off the Ghost Adventures list, because they've been everywhere, they need fresh places, fresh meat. And Zach, based on what Justin was telling me, Zach cannot fly. He has this horrendous fear of flying now because I guess when they did that massive tour in Europe, when they went to Scotland and Ireland and all those places, something traumatic happened on the flight back. They hit some severe turbulence. It really messed Zach up to the point where he's like, I don't want to set foot on another plane. So that's why after that season, they did the big road trip season. Like they went all over the US in that RV and it even killed the guys because they're like, this is too much. So now everything has to be within, California, maybe Washington, Arizona, maybe New Mexico area, like just something that is feasible and drivable for the rest of the crew. So now they're trying to stick in other places that are like low key in LA and other places around there. So that's what we started doing.
That is so awesome. But and I think kind of like it's just wild. We knew that Zach didn't fly, and I think we've had that conversation. Like they're gonna run out of places soon, man. Like
I know, right?
Everywhere. Like where else is there to go? And and of course we're also trying to like follow their path. Like we want to go everywhere they've been to. But I think that's so great that they're kind of tapping into other resources, and it's even better that they're tapping into people who are connected to the paranormal and really kind of respect it and trying to preserve it and share the story. So I think it's good that they're using they're keeping their credibility, I guess is what I'm getting at, intact.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he gets better and better. Like, I was talking to Jay because I was noticing, I don't know if you guys notice it too, I'm sure you guys do, like the style of their intro and even the style of their episodes. Like watch the first 2 seasons and compare it to the last 2 and you'll see like the cinematography is exquisite. And Jay is all about that. Jay Walsley is like, and when I started talking to him about the cinematography, he's like, you notice that? I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, we were nominated for this big cinematography award, this huge, and I think they won. And of course they would, because Zach, from what I found out being on location with them, I was like, hey, I noticed that your dude who's head of photography was in the show, The Offering. I think it was called The Offer. No, The Offer. It was about the Godfather, the making of The Godfather. I think it's on Prime. And that dude who plays the writer of The Godfather is actually their director of photography.
Oh my goodness.
So it turns out that Zach has a lot of people on his ledger, on his payroll, from Sony Pictures, from Warner Brothers. And when I was on location with them, Jay was directing a bunch of the cameramen to do B-rolls, to shoot locations. And they had some of the sweetest high-tech cameras. And Jay is so passionate about it. And I noticed that a lot of people seem pretty happy working beneath Zach. Like, even the director of photography was telling me, yeah, he's the best boss. Like, I have no problem working with him. Like, we go to places and we meet really interesting people in these places. The fans are a little scary than the hosts. You want some cheese, man? You want some cheese?
Always.
So when I was talking to the director of photography, him and I got on very well. I was like, so I noticed that you guys invite fans, but have you ever had like crazy fans? He's like, oh my God. He was like, I don't know. They work better than the CIA, because I promise you, Tammie, they have eagle eyes, and we have to be very careful with what we use and the devices that we use, like our phones. So he was like telling me there was this one, I think, when was it? It was like, I think they were talking about this episode a couple episodes before the one they were shooting, but he was like, Tammie, there was an episode where they had my phone, like, you know, they were making a call or I was calling them, and because Zach doesn't use his phone. So they had my phone and Zach is on the phone, and he immediately removes it from his ear. Well, I guess someone with a DVR or something was like trying to time it to where you could see my number. So then after that aired, literally 2 nights after that aired, I get a call from someone, and he wanted to talk to Zach. He's like, hey, I found your number on this episode. It was on his phone, and I want to know if I could talk to Zach Bagans right now.
Oh my
It's his
God.
phone. And the guy was like, no, this is not his phone. Please don't call. I'm going to have to block you. But can you tell me where you guys are going next? Because I think you guys are going to this place in Los Angeles. He's like, we're cutting the call right now.
Oh
like,
my
he's
goodness.
like, I don't know how they know this, or how, like, he's like, they're smart and they're eagle eyes. And I mean, they're people who show up to locations before they've shown up asking for Zach. Like, how do they know?
Wow.
And so he's like, yeah, there are times where like we have to get security because it gets a little scary.
Yeah.
Not because of the ghost, but because of these crazy fans. And I will admit too that after my episode with Heritage Square aired, I had like a slew of emails of people asking me, like, do you have Zach's number? Do you have his email? Do you have Patty's number? Do you have her email? And I was like, what? He's like, well, you're friends with Zach, your best friend. I'm like, I'm not friends with, no. It's like, I was just on the episode. Like, I probably met Zach and talked to him for 5 minutes, and that was it. Like, Jay a little longer because, like, he loved gushing about his equipment. And Aaron is just Aaron. He loves talking about conspiracy theories, but, Aaron is fucking hilarious. He's hilarious. Get that man started on conspiracy theories, especially the flat earth. Like, he's not a flat earther, but he's like, it's just so crazy that people really think the earth is effing flat, man. And he's like, he is funny. The many discussions I've had, the funny discussions I've had with him were pretty interesting.
Yeah, man, that's wild. I mean, that's so rude too. Like, let me just like bother this person I don't know and ask for information that they cannot give me.
I know.
Like,
It's insane.
People
it's
got
like,
some nerve,
the audacity to think that you would be able to, or even want to, give out information, and like how crazy they had your, like, oh, that's too much. That's too much.
No, like,
I'm so sorry.
They're emailing the podcast. They were finding me on Instagram, and it was. People were like, "Well, how well do you know Zach?" I'm like, I don't know him. Like, guys, like, that's not what I did. I just worked with everybody on the show. That was it. I did what I did, and that was it.
That's wild. I mean, that's
it's
super
scary.
cool though.
It's scary. I was like,
that experience.
you guys need help.
For real though. People be people.
I know, they need the chancla, not the holy water. insane.
That's great. And I love what you mentioned too about kind of the quality of the show, because as we do like our reviews of it, we started with season 1, episode 1, and we're just on season 6 because they got a lot. But I think it's so interesting to see that development and that growth. And I think it's just really cool that, to Bethany's point, you had the opportunity to work with them, but also just to kind of see their professionalism and the people that they're working with to kind of give it that quality, because they don't get the best rap, I guess, in the paranormal. Like Zach is Zach, and he's kind of on this weird and this different element, and a lot of people like to attack that.
He's a showman,
but he's a showman. Yeah,
he's a show. We say it all the time. Like, it's a TV show.
It's a TV show.
It's fun.
That's just how it is.
Right,
yeah,
right.
and I will say this, that not a lot of people really grasp, and what I noticed, like, there's not a lot of representation of people of color in the paranormal, and I will give it to Zach. I will definitely give it to him, because he put other people in front of the camera, and he had a lot of people of color working behind the camera.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, damn, one of his, like, show producers was this amazing girl who, you know, was just calling the shots, you know, and she had her earpiece on. You could tell, like, when they were it's so funny when they would go in for the investigation, she's like, hold up, she was talking to me, and then you hear, oh my god, and she's like, I have to take it off because they scream so loud. So I was like, and I could hear it, you could hear nothing but the yelling of these men screaming, and she's like, okay, so what do we got to do next? I'm like, okay, but yeah, like, he even had a woman like working the camera too. Like, she was amazing, and I'm like, I was like, more props to him, you know. He didn't have to put me in front of the camera, but he did, and he gave me like a little bit of spotlight, you know, a little brown girl investigator, and others too in the past. And I just, that is something I really wanted to put out there. And like, no, I know we want to like hate monger him, but there is a soft side to him.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a cool perspective, you know, and that's good to hear. And, you know, I just think it's cool that they saw your talent and saw what, you know, you have, and, you know, gave you a little bit more of that push. And like, you know, now you've got that on your resume, you've got that episodes, you know, like, I just, you know, kudos to you, man.
Yeah, right on. Perfect segue to talk about you more, Tammie.
Yeah, your show. Because we do also love your show.
Love your show. So Hollyweird Paranormal is amazing, and we've really enjoyed a number of episodes. And this is something I think you've been doing since around, is it 2017 is when this started for you?
Yeah, like the tail end of 2017, 2018,
Yeah. So I think really just to jump in really to your journey and your timeline. So I think what was exciting for us was learning that you actually born in New Orleans, and we love New Orleans. Like we're, however often we can get there, like the vibe of the city, the food of the city, the culture, it's just so rich and amazing, but also haunted as fuck. And
it is. I just got back from New Orleans 2 weeks ago. And it is still haunted as ever.
Yes.
Very much haunted.
The history is wild. Yeah. So just kind of like, I guess, early on, what I'm sure experiences or kind of what triggered or what started this all for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, growing up in the spooky city of New Orleans, you just knew that there is something beyond our belief there. Like, you just felt it in the air. Like, I mean, Halloween and spiritualism there, you just felt like that city had a lot of like weird and spooky undertones. You felt it. And growing up, you know, you listened to a lot of like lore of the Rougarou and ghost stories of all these crazy houses off of St. Charles Avenue in the French Quarter, like the La Laurie Mansion was another one. And also, like, as I got older, there was a time where I did move to Texas, and I lived there for 8 years. And then I was like, no, I got to go back to New Orleans because I miss it so much. I was going to university there, and I was majoring in theater, and I was working in a lot of the old theaters in the city. And there's a lot of old haunted theaters. And I had my first paranormal experience in an old haunted theater in a university next door to mine called Tulane. And I remember this very well. I was cutting fabric in the front foyer because we just didn't have enough space in the shop. It was a big show called Camelot. So I was by myself, and it was a dark and stormy afternoon. Like every freaking day in New Orleans, it rains, and it was perfect setting. And I kept on seeing like what looked like a man standing on the foot of these stairs, and I kept on looking up, and I'm like, he's not there, but I could see him. It's the weirdest thing. I could see him. He was wearing all black. He had black hair. I think he had a black mustache, and he was just watching me. And I just felt like someone was watching me. So when it came time for lunch, I went back into the shop, and then I just asked the ladies there, I'm like, hey, is the theater haunted? And then they stopped eating. They're like, oh yeah, you saw Bob. We had Bob. I bet you saw Bob. And I was like, wait, you gave it a freaking name. And they were like, Bob has been around. He used to work in this theater. And I was like, what? So it turned out that this guy used to work in this theater. He used to be a professor in lighting, and he passed away due to cancer like years and years ago. And ever since then, he's come back to the university, and he still works at the university. He just like makes his presence known. And the prop director comes in, and they're like, hey, you know, so-and-so, Tammie saw Bob. And I was like, you know, Bob? She's like, yeah, he used to be my lighting professor. I'm like, what did Bob look like? Oh, you know, black hair, black mustache, and he always wore his theater blacks. And I was like, dead. That's exactly who I saw. Like, and I asked him, like, why me? Like, why did he show himself? Well, you know, it's an initiation because it was my first year working, and he shows himself to people that he likes. So consider yourself lucky. And I was like, great. Tell him not to do that anymore, because that freaked the fuck out of me. I was just like, and I didn't know. Like, I was there to work, man. I was there just to work and make some money for the summer and get some experience. And now I had a spooky experience in this theater. And then ever since then, you know, I got into costuming, and I got involved in like the horror genre because of the people I worked with. They loved horror, so they loved going to these old locations, and every location that I would travel with them to, weird things would happen, like things flying off the shelves, things being moved, footsteps being heard at night by our security that was watching our equipment. And ever since I came to LA and started working, you know, in older theaters, and that's how I met Bryce, was at an old school that used to be the grounds of the Charlie Chaplin studios in his house. Weird things were happening, and I was like, okay, that's it. We're gonna start a podcast, and we're gonna talk about this, because no one knows about this history, no one knows about these places, and no one knows they should hear these stories, and that's how it kind of came to be.
Yes, I'm kind of curious, around what age were you? Because you mentioned that was your first paranormal experience.
I feel like that's always been embedded in my life. I've always felt like myself and my younger sister always had like some sort of a gift. And I know that we got it from our grandmother. She was always very special, but she was very God-fearing. And, you know, I mean, there were other experiences, little experiences that I had before that major one.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like, okay, this is your quinceañera into the paranormal. This is it.
Right.
I want to say that I was, oh my God, I was like 21, 22 when I first saw my first apparition.
Yeah.
So that was like the kickoff. That was feel cool.
Game on for sure. Awesome. Yeah, I'm always just curious about those things because, again, we'll have our experiences a little bit younger, but it's just so interesting to how it kind of weaves into our culture and what we grew up believing, and our willingness, I think, to accept the paranormal maybe a little bit easier than some others, because it's just always been there, right? So I was just curious.
That's so good that you guys bring that up, because I've had the same conversation with other Latinos as well, and I'm like, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think like we hone in on it and we nurture it? And it's something that, you know, we are a very spiritual, you know, group of individuals, you know, that we've grown up with, and, you know, we have different lores and beliefs, and that's been passed down. So that's really cool that you guys analyze that.
We want to understand it better. We're not the best at analyzing anything really, but we're just like curious because it's just so cool to hear it. Like,
So I guess another thing we like to ask people is, what would you consider like your most profound paranormal experience? It doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad or anything. It was just like, I don't know, just something that really, really stuck with you, almost like a core memory type situation, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, God, there's this one, I made a video about it on TikTok, and there's a lot of debate, but when I was working in the school here in Los Angeles, I managed costumes, and I managed a costume shop, and I still do that. I had to bring these machines into this old shop in Burbank, and I worked with them for several years. And there's this one time I went in one afternoon after work, and I went to go pick up the sewing machine. I had the manager, Matt, come and, bring the machine to my car. I get in my car, I just kind of sit there. And this is like the early days of TikTok. And my friend and I would always send each other TikToks, of these like little sound bites that were funny. So I sit in my car and I'm making these TikToks, and, I have these glasses on, and I notice in one frame, like, I see this face. At first I think it's mine, the reflection of my phone, but I was like, something looks off. Like, something looks off about this image. And I screenshot it. I zoomed in. I'm like, the image looks like a man. And I'm wearing like red lipstick. Yes, I have glasses, but it looks like the features and everything. Like, you could see stubble. He's wearing glasses. He's bald. And I'm like, that looked weird. And I sent it to my friend. She's like, yeah, I kind of noticed that, but I thought it was you. But now I'm seeing it closely. It doesn't look like you, Tammie. She's like, is someone standing in front of the car? I'm like, no one's around my car. It's just traffic. So I sent it to some friends of mine in the paranormal to analyze it. They're like, Tammie, that's a man. Like, I don't think that's you, because it's very masculine. And so the next day I was doing some errands, and something told me to go into this coffee shop, take a break, and call the sewing machine shop. And I called them, and Matt answers, the manager, and I'm like, Matt, I'm just going to ask you something. I caught something on a video that I recorded in front of your store, and I just need to know, is your shop haunted? And without a heartbeat, like, he's like, yes. And I said, okay, I'm very serious about this stuff. I told him I have a podcast, I do this stuff, I research, and I was like, can you elaborate more? He's like, yeah, that's Frank. We have a ghost named Frank. I'm like, what is up with these freaking ghost names? Give it a name. He's like, Frank used to work in the shop. Oh, goodness. And I said, oh. And what happened with Frank? Well, he died a couple of years ago. He had a heart attack on his way to work, and I was the last person he spoke to. What did Frank look like? Bald, had a stubble, and had glasses. And I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, that's what I have. And I'm like, Matt, can I come by tomorrow and show you and the owner this picture? He's like, yeah, just come by. So I went over and I showed them the picture, and they turned white. And one of them almost started tearing up. Like, he hadn't seen a friend in a long time. And both of them were like, that's Frank. And I was like, do you have a picture of him? They're like, no, Frank was not the type to have like pictures taken of him. He was older, but not that older. He was a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. So his health wasn't that great. And when he got sick, he had a walking pneumonia, and he was riding his bike to work, and his heart gave out. And Matt was telling me the story. He's like, I was the last person he talked to. And after I got off the phone with him, because he was running late, I hear like it was like 10 minutes later, I hear ambulances and fire trucks. And he's like, I had a feeling that was him. And ever since then, weird things, like I think a couple months after his passing, weird things started happening. So things would go missing in the shop. They would end up in weird places. They would hear a man's voice. They would hear footsteps. And then they knew, I think one day Matt was like, Frank, if that's you, make something move or fall. And something fell from the shelf. And looking back, I felt like I've encountered or interacted with Frank during a transaction or payment of a machine there. And when I was there, when we were talking about Frank, this chair that was hanging on the ceiling started swinging because they were sharing this really hilarious story of Frank, and we all started laughing, and the chair just started swinging. And I was like, I have a feeling that's I had it recorded on my Instagram live because I was posting it live at the time. And once again, this is like before TikTok blew up. And I mean, a lot of people remember that story, but a lot of people debate that is me in the image of this video. But I'm like, how could that be me? And then the story surfaces, right. How, and then they're like, well, they're just lying. I'm like, I don't know. These are grown men who had emotion and feeling for this man. Right. If anything, like Frank didn't have family. He didn't have loved ones. And I felt like what we were doing on that Instagram live was kind of like a eulogy for him, because we were learning so much about him. And to me, that like struck out in my mind the most, because like we truly don't know what we're dealing with. And I wasn't summoning anything. I was just there to do, like always, I'm just there to do a job with like freaking Bob and then Frank. And I'm just minding my own business. And it's so weird that oftentimes, like, you know, it's when we're not least expecting these things to happen that they find us. And, you know, it leads to this whole thought that I come to the conclusion in my research is that we're still too young to understand the universe. We're so young. And I don't think a lot of us really understand that. Like, we are still young to understand what truly is going on around us in this world.
Oh my goodness. Yes. No, I think it's, that leads us to a question that we always, like, we don't even like we don't like answering the question. So I don't even know why we really ask it.
Because I mean,
it's a fun question.
And I feel like you're segueing us into it like perfectly.
So
Perfect.
what is, but it's such a, I'm going to ask it.
Yeah.
What do you think the paranormal is?
Like, how would you
define it? Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, that is an open-ended question.
Exactly.
What is the paranormal? Like, especially what is the phenomenon that we're going through? Is it extraterrestrial phenomenon? Is it my favorite answer that I'm really looking into, is it parallel dimensions?
Yes.
You know, is it a time slip? Is it geomagnetism from the earth? The ghosts, what are ghosts? Are they truly discarded agents? Are they truly, you know, something from a different time period, you know?
Right.
And that is something that I think that we will never have the answer for until we cross that threshold. I just want to know, in the end of the day, what happens to our consciousness, and does our consciousness constantly persists after we leave our mortal coil? Like, that is the thing that I want to know. I think we want to chase something that we see on television, we hear in stories, but do we really know what we're chasing? Right. And those are things that, I mean, I want to know. I've heard so many stories of the things that go bump in the night, but I've heard some crazy stories of just like time slips, things happening that is not a ghost. You know, I think I have a friend, my friend Johnny Alteni always shares a story. He's like, you know, I like to know or read in a journal or somewhere from the 18th century, these people in an old house that saw a group of us freaking paranormal investigators with our devices and our flashlights.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In a different time, and they're looking at us in their time, and we're looking at them in their, you know, their real time. Like, those are things that I'm really interested in, because I've heard types of stories like that. Yes. You know, we'll never have the answer. Well, it's just an open-ended question. Yeah.
I love your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the journey for all. I think, like, it's not learning how to use just devices and stuff. It's just learning about what we're truly dealing with. I mean, that's the question I always love to give people. Like, can you define to me what a ghost is? Mm-hmm. And it always, without hesitation, stumps even the brightest paranormal researcher. They're like, well, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's it. We'll never have the answer. Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah.
No, that was perfect. I think anytime we get asked the question, we're just going to play this back. We're just going to use your answer now as our answer. Okay. Like, can we do that?
Yeah.
From Tammie herself. No. I mean, we have very similar viewpoints, you know. I don't think we've articulated it as beautifully as that, but, you know, we talk about dimensions, or is it energy? Like, we always love going back to science and metaphysics and shit. And,
yeah. And there's so much debate. Like, even physicists have debates with like quantum physicists about like, do we come back as waves, or do we come back as particles? You know, that like, what do we come back as? You know. Yeah. And I think that is a debate in every sector, everywhere, which is really interesting. But that's really cool that you guys like present that question, you know, and analyze it and try to like figure it out. And it's really cool to have those discussions. Those are the discussions we really do need to have at the end of the day.
And they're so fun too, because everyone is so different and we all perceive the world so differently. You know, like we were talking about how you'll be in a room with someone and you're both having a completely different experience. And it's just so mind blowing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about like the shared experience. When you share that experience with people, that's why, like, I used to love going by myself to investigations, but then I love going with other people because we're like, did you just see that? Did you just feel that? Yes. Yeah. What did you feel? What did you see? And that's what I'm really all interested about, is this shared reality and our shared experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it.
So good. You're so good. You're so good at it.
Yes.
Are you like, do you do this for like a living or something?
I just like, you know, have you ever like Google?
Yeah, have you ever done this
just
before?
Like, what is the paranormal? That's me. I misspelled it. You know? Yeah.
No, that's great. And I think really, and again, you're really just kind of leading this so perfect.
Yeah,
in regards
meant to be.
Yeah, it is really meant to be. Shared experiences, and I think even tying into what you mentioned in your story of Frank, some of these moments can be really beautiful and really come together. Something that we just listened to on your podcast was your visit to Rainbow Room and Rainbow Bar and Girl, and and we were just there in early June, and as we were kind of listening to your stories, we were like, holy shit, like, that's what we felt. That's what happened. Like that, we totally get that. So would you mind sharing with everybody your experience so we can kind of talk about Lemmy a little bit, you know?
Well, I want to give flowers where flowers are due, and I have to give them to, you know, my girl Ansley of Spooky Foodie. You know, she's blowing up in this industry, she's blowing up in this community because, you know, at the end of the day, I always tell people, like, just have fun, and I see her having fun, and because of that energy, she gets a lot of people that approach her, and she was approached by the people of the Rainbow and Whiskey, as they should.
Yeah.
Because I love I love how they treat those two locations. The workers there are very protective, and they just don't ask anybody to come in. I don't even think they would ask the Baggins.
That's fair.
But Ansley, you know, she's doing something that every researcher and investigator should do. She's been researching this place and investigating it for almost 2 years. You know, I remember going there with her, with Zachariah the Witch, when we tried to do the Whiskey A Go-Go. It was a little shaky, but then she was invited back and she came out with more stuff. And we started researching and investigating the whiskey and talking to a lot of the workers. So I always tell people, like, what are the firsthand accounts? Like, that's what you go based off of. Almost every worker that has worked there has, even the ones that are very skeptic, they're like, I saw this and I can't explain it. And I don't believe in this stuff, but I was here by myself and I saw like a full body apparition, or I saw this weird thing floating by the stage. So the Whiskey A Go-Go has this weird energy or apparition that lingers around the stage. Of course, yeah, that's where the musicians play.
Right.
You know, that's where they all hang out. That's where a lot of the energy and impact begins. And then the owners who own the whiskey, you know, they passed away in their 70s. And the wife of the owner, from what we picked up in our investigation at the whiskey, is there. And she's happy with the operations. And there's a lot of women that work in whiskey, man. There's a lot of amazing women that work there, that lead, you know, certain areas, and she's happy with them. And in a way, she's like watching them and protecting them. So that is something that we verified, and we're like, hey, you know, just to let you know, she's here. She's happy with what you guys are doing. Keep on rocking. And the Rainbow Bar and Grill, yeah. That one was, it was like, there's so many surprises. First off, the whiskey, we don't know. It's a combination of so many things. Like even Zachariah said, our witch and psychic, he was like, it's a lot of energy coming in and out. Like, think about the people that have come in and out of here since it opened. True. Then you go next door to the Rainbow Bar and Grill. This used to be an Italian restaurant back in the day. Sunset in the 30s and 40s was ran by gangsters. There's pictures that you could find of the strip with cars having bullet holes. And the Rainbow, I think it was it wasn't Tricadero's, but it was an Italian restaurant, and gangsters used to hang out there. Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio had their first date there, and yes, she was 2 hours late. The booth, as she should, but he still waited. Yeah. The booth is still there, and where they sat, it's really cool. But you go into the second floor, and that's where a lot of people have had a lot of experiences. So if you guys remember going to the Vampire Lair,
Oh no, did we miss this?
Did we miss that?
Yeah, so the Vampire Lair is a huge historical location within this historical location. So it's called the Vampire's Lair. It's where the vampires roam. It's Ozzy Osbourne, Alice Cooper, and all these great musicians. I created a little club, and it's this little tiny room with 2 tables, and it's creepy. And the workers and even Ansley told me to go in there and sit. And I was like, okay. And I was sitting there, and once again, I'm seeing this man in my peripheral, like how I saw Bob, and he's sitting and he's like cross-legged, and he has this coat over his shoulders. He has a hat on, and he's just like looking at me, and he's just eyeing me. And I'm like, I feel very uncomfortable. Like, I'm like, guys, there's a man in here. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So we confirmed it. I'm like, he's not doing anything weird. But I think he's just observing me. He's like, what the hell are you doing in here? Why are you sitting in here kind of mentality? And I just walked out. I told Nancy, I don't want to go in there again, like by myself. It was just like, it's just like being stared at. And this guy is staring at me. The manager of the bar, like his dad, I think his family ran the Rainbow even when it was like this Italian restaurant back in the day, and it's been handed out to him. And he's like this open encyclopedia of what's happened there. So when it was that Italian restaurant, there were like weird passageways, secret rooms, and they just so happened to have found one, I think a couple of years ago. It was above the cleaning closet, and we got to see it. And there's like an old dusty table and chairs. There's stuff on the table. And this is where the gangsters used to come and meet and have their secret meetings. Then he takes me to another place of the ceiling. He moves this little like door, and it's a freaking crawl space. So these people used to go and through this crawl space, all the celebrity singers and gangsters, and they used to eye and look at people eating and drinking and partying. It's the weirdest place. But there's a lot of energy there, and Ansley has confirmed one particular ghost they call One-Eyed Jack, and it was a man that was a frequent patron. He wore an eye patch. I don't think he was missing an eye. He just wore it just for. And it turned out that they made communication with him, and then a couple weeks later, the man's daughter contacts Ansley and was like, "That is my dad." And I'm on my deathbed myself, and I just want to make sure like he's okay, and if he's going to be there waiting for me. I have a lot of questions. So Ansley came up with a lot of wonderful things. Another one, Lemmy's there. He's always there. He is the skeptic and living. He didn't believe in ghosts and all this bullshit, and now he's a ghost himself. And during the investigation, he just like comes in. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, it's you again. Okay, just don't mess up anything," kind of thing. But he is there watching over the place. Like, he is the bouncer. He is there to make sure everybody's playing well and playing nice and not disrespecting the place. That was Lemmy in living. Like, he took care of the Rainbow. He was friends with everybody there, and he's still friends with them even in his afterlife. He's hanging around there. His ashes are still there too, and his statue. So that place definitely has a lot of ghosts from the 30s, 40s, and some rocker ghosts as well. It's really cool. Like, they allowed them to do that, which is something that the Rainbow never does. Yeah. But because of how well Ansley and Zachariah came in and how well and respectful they were of the investigations, they wanted them back. Because that's awesome. Yeah, that's how you do it, guys. Like,
yes, be respectful.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That's so sweet too.
I hate to say it, but you see a lot of these like young YouTubers that are going in and they're just being disrespectful. They don't want that, this is how you do it. Yeah,
they're doing some season 1 Zach Bagan shit, and it's like, bro, we need season 20 Zach Bagan shit.
They don't know their integrity, and I know there's a couple that's already like faked a couple of phenomenons, and we don't want that.
That is such a bummer.
It's very it's crazy.
Yeah, that was a real fun episode to listen to, because I'm a huge Motorhead fan, and when we went to the rainbow, there was a woman there sitting in Lemmy's spot, and she was just kind of like, hanging there. She was an employee, and we went up to Lemmy's statue, and I just got like so overwhelmed. And I was not expecting this at all. I was like, we're gonna see Lemmy's statue, it's gonna be fucking cool, and like, whatever. And then we get there, and I'm like fucking crying. My dude, like I got there, and I was like, oh my God.
Because that's him. Like,
Yeah, I felt
that
it.
is him.
I was like, holy shit, it's Lemmy, and I'm meeting him right now. I was like, I'm getting emotional right now. I did not expect it.
Did you leave him a cigarette?
No, I didn't. I should have. I told Leah, I was like, fuck, we should have brought like whiskey or something. I gotta buy him a shot. Like,
yeah.
But I guess if you left him a couple of good words, he would have been like, yeah, right.
It was interesting because I feel like I don't think I'm as like in tune as you are. Like you're very, and but no, I felt like he was there, said hi, and then left. Like he wasn't there the whole time.
That's really interesting you said that, because he's known to do that. I think Zachariah and Ansley went there a couple weeks ago, and when they were doing their EVP, the door opens on the second, like by itself, it opened. It was from a closet, and Zachariah's like, oh, that's Lemmy. And then you see the door and then they saw the door close again. They're like, he's like, oh, it's you. Okay. Hi.
Over it, yeah.
Goes back, is like, hi. All right.
Yeah.
That you say that, like that was his soul. That was
so
who
crazy.
he was. That is so cool that you got that. Yeah.
So, yeah,
And a lot of people get it. They sense him there. They're like, yeah, we know he's here. I mean, people, I don't think they see him. I think one person has heard his voice there. But everybody that has worked there has a ghost story, for sure.
I remember in your episode, I forgot who said it. Didn't they say they heard his voice, like in their mind? They were like, oh, I've never heard his voice before, but I knew it was him. Like,
it's a thick accent that he has.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a little rusty.
Yeah.
It's Lemmy from Motorhead. Yeah, that fucking voice, man. It was, I got that rocker voice.
Yeah.
And of course, like, I think he knows like people's soul. Like it's they know, like, you have a good soul, I know you're gonna have a good time, so I think he knew that you meant well and that you loved him, and he was saying hi.
That's how I felt too. I was like, he knows I'm a fan, and he's just like, hi. I'm like, hi.
I'm here, like, let me go say hi to her.
I think that's amazing, because Bethany has like this beautiful moment, and my experience was more kind of like your experience, where I felt like someone was like just staring at me, and I was like, nope, fuck this, I'm out, like I gotta go, bye, because it was upstairs. It was at the second floor. I went to go use. I went to go use the restroom, and it was right after she went to the restroom, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go really quick before we head out. And as I'm coming out, there's just a corner. I can't really, just right across from the restroom, that corner, it was just darker than any other corner up there. And I was like, something is fucking staring at me right now.
I'm telling you.
And
I know what you're, that's where the original furnishings of that restaurant are still in that room. Okay. And that's where people feel uneasy. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, I'm getting the goose pimples again, because I was even nervous to go back down the stairs. I was like, fuck, I got to get closer to that corner to go down the stairs to get back to my table. And I was like,
I know exactly what you're talking about. People really do feel uneasy in that space. So that for you to say that validates it too.
Oh, like, my goodness. It hit me hard. And when I told her, I was like, I felt uneasy. She's like, I felt fine. Like, everything was great. Like she had this like better experience. And I'm like, bro.
No, I mean, I felt it too. I felt it up there, but I felt like it was just kind of like standing and just like watching and just like, you better not fuck shit up. Like, it just felt protective of the space more than menacing towards me. Yeah. And I was like, I'm cool, bro. Like, I'm just here to eat some pizza.
But I think you're right. I think they did pick up on it's a presence of a bouncer. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not Lemmy, but there is something that's so amazing that you say that, because I think Ansley and Zachariah picked up on that. Like, it's attached. I think that guy is attached to the restaurant, not the bar. I think he was attached to the restaurant, but there is that presence of, they see a man in a suit and he's a tall man and he's just like watching you.
Yeah, that was totally the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Very big. It felt like it
Big,
towered over
guy.
me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And he was just watching.
Watch the videos, but I think they did bring him up. I think Zachariah picked up on him. That's why people feel like uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the vampire layer room, I was like, I don't want to be there by myself again. Like, it's just, I feel uneasy when you have someone staring at you like a living person, but when it's a dead person, you're like, oh
gosh. No. Oh my goodness. I'm bummed we missed out on the vampire room, man.
Yeah.
We missed that.
Yeah.
So we got to go back.
But I think it's so cool though that like listening to the episode and then also just talking to you and kind of recapping a little bit. I just think it's so cool that we experience similar things, because I don't really see myself as a super like intuitive, but then things like this happen, and then
Yeah.
yeah, we all have like a little like we have a bit of an intuitive muscle. We're all human. Even our animals do. So some are stronger than others, and you definitely felt that in that space. It takes a unique space at a unique time to see it all manifest or to feel it.
Yeah. No, it was awesome.
that is so cool.
And I know we're getting close to our hour, but really quick, we got a Pennhurst. Like you did Pennhurst.
Oh my God, Pennhurst.
Dude, like, okay, like let's spend these last couple minutes really talking about Pennhurst.
Man, that place is a beast.
Yes.
And I went to Pennhurst back in May for their huge festival. I got to meet everybody from Ghost Hunters, Ghost Brothers, What's Up Weirdo podcast. And I did the 8-hour investigation, which was from like 7 o'clock at night to like 1 a.m. in the morning, and it almost killed me. And because we're at it all day at this festival, and then we come back, and Pennhurst is just a village of buildings, and they have a ton of buildings. And I think out of the 6th and 7th that they usually have open, they open an additional 2 buildings that haven't been investigated before. So it was myself and another investigator, Bianca, and from Spooky Melanin Magic. She's another up and coming one, and she's really great. And I was like, I have a feeling like I met her for a reason, and it's going to be for this reason of this investigation. And we went to different places. We went to different buildings. We went into this one admin building, and I kept on feeling like there was something around us, and we kept on hearing what sounded like something was throwing rocks across from us. And even the guy that was with us, the volunteer, was like, yeah, I'm hearing that. And I took a picture of it, of the space where I was hearing the rocks being thrown, and you can see this misty figure appear by this doorway. And I took a series of them, and then you don't see it. So I thought that was very interesting, but there was something weird in that building. And it was really cool to talk to the volunteers, because what was so interesting is that not a lot of them have paranormal experiences. And they're there hours on end. And they're like, yeah, like I haven't had that paranormal full body apparition experience yet. So, and then there's some that, they have that experience. I think the biggest one that I could share with you, because I know we're close to time, was the Candyland. Now, that was the most intense area. This is the area where the children were kept. And it's very sad, because like you felt like hearing the stories of what happened to them. I mean, they were dumped by their families, and they were never visited by their loved ones. They died there. Some of them just never, they were always alone. They never had loved ones come and visit them. That was the saddest thing. So this was their home, and it's very eerie. You see all these these cartoon painted figures on the wall, and it's just very eerie. So Bianca goes in there with me. We have another couple with the REM pod on this bed, and we sit next to them with my dead bell. And we started asking questions. And Bianca is a teacher, so right there, she had this beautiful teacher's voice, and she started asking questions. And then all of a sudden, it got dead quiet, with every pun intended. And we were getting hits on the bell, hits on the REM pod. So right there, I was looking at the couple, and I was like, "Can you keep that there?" They're like, "Yeah." because they're like, it's going off. And it's validating that something was in there communicating with not just us, but Bianca specifically. And I was like, Bianca, don't ask me to ask questions, because I'm gonna bawl my eyes out, because the questions that she were asking, it was so heart-wrenching. Like, did you ever see your family again? No. Did you ever see did anyone come and visit you? No. Did you die here? Which we hate asking that question, but it rang. Yes. Yes, we died here. And I look over to my right, and there's just like a slew of people watching this whole entire interaction, because we're getting answers and we're doing it the right way. And there are people there that were, you could tell they had their channels and they were doing the stupidest things.
Yeah.
And Bianca here is like, okay, well, can you, do you like candy? Do you want me to leave you candy? And the bell would go off for yes. And I would leave them gum. And it was one of the most palpable interactions, and it was an interaction that I didn't record, because those instances, I just didn't want any outside interference. I just wanted it to be raw and real. And like I said, that was our shared experience. I felt like if I would have grabbed my camera, I felt like I just felt like we wouldn't have gotten enough input.
Yeah.
But there was something there, and those kids are still there, and they're just happy that they have each other, and they're actually happy that the living come, like all of us investigators, they come there and they see them. They're like, we didn't get visits from our family, but we get visits from you, and that's fine. So they're not lonely. They're actually happy that this happens. So that was like my experience from Pennhurst, and that place certainly has a lot of stories and a lot of ghosts. Yeah.
I mean, it's massive, and I feel like, anyone who is listening, and if you haven't heard that episode, you have to go listen to it, because she goes way more into detail about the atmosphere and everthing. So and it is such a good episode. So
it was, no wonder it takes one person. It will literally take you 10 hours to investigate that whole place. It's like a I don't know, it's like a Disneyland for ghosts. It's like get off of one building, go on to another ride. I mean, that's what it was. It was like building. Okay, next building. Okay, next building, and you see the playground, and it's insane. It's so intense. If ever you have a chance to go visit it, go. It's so beautiful. And the people that take care of it do such a great job.
Oh my goodness, yes. And that's good to hear, that respect. And I think you've kind of had that weaved throughout your conversation today. Just keep it respectful, understand that we're dealing with things that we don't quite understand, and be cool about it, man. Like, don't go there. Yeah. No, so thank you so much. I mean, that's been amazing. I know we're at our hour. I want to be respectful of everyone's time.
No.
So really, thank you again so much for sharing your beautiful, spooky stories and knowing stuff about the Ghost Adventures crew. And that was cool. And we know for sure all of our putitos know exactly who you are. But if you want to let people know where they can hear more, see more about you, we'd love for you to share that information.
Sure. You guys can follow Hollyweird Paranormal on Instagram and Facebook at Hollyweird Paranormal. You can listen to our podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Pretty much we're everywhere, wherever you get your podcast fix. And I'm also on TikTok under Haunted LA Girl. So that's my own separate page where I do have Hollyweird Paranormal, but I go and do little adventures. So you can follow me in my other spooky adventures and stories. And and we're also on X under HWP Podcasts. We've been taking a bit of a break because I've been traveling so much. So now I'm like, I've stopped, and we're gearing up for more episodes and more people. And we are still going at it.
Well, hell yeah,
keep
dude.
going. We love it. Yes.
And congratulations on your trajectory, and you're going to do even more, and we're stoked to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. My fellow putas.
Yes. Cheers to that.
Oh, yeah.
Tammie, thank you again so much. We hope you have a great day.
Thank you, guys. You too.
Holy shit. Bro, that was so fun.
I'm still like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Keanu. Whoa.
Whoa. Dude, the fact that she came in there just straight up with the Zach Bagans.
Dude, I know.
It's like, what are you doing right now, Tammie? Because
I almost had a heart attack.
like, my head's gonna fucking explode.
Yeah, when she mentioned Patty, I seriously, like, I think I had a stroke, like a mini stroke.
Yeah, Bethany couldn't stop. Like, I think Bethany like froze with her mouth open, like,
Yeah, I think I vibrated off the couch. I think I levitated a little bit.
dude, man, no, she came in hitting us with the good ones, and no, it was just such a great conversation. We said it multiple times, like it just kind of flowed so naturally. And her energy is just awesome, and what she does is great. And I'm fangirling, so shut me up.
Oh yeah, no, me too, man. I mean, their show is absolutely fantastic, and I just, you know, when listening to the Rainbow episode, it was just so exciting because it's like, you know, the show is so cool, and then hearing them do the investigations there, and having had similar experience was really validating, and it's just so interesting, you know, like she was talking about that shared experience.
Yeah, man, it just flowed so great, and we're really excited, and y'all heard her say, you know, don't be a stranger. So we'll probably be messaging her a little bit more. I think we're friends now. Oh my god! No, but no, she was great, and even though it was so amazing, we talked some really heavy stuff, man. Like, so, Tammie, we love you, but we still need a cleanse. Let's do.
Omni rigere suminaro. Omni rigere suminaro.
Take a big deep breath in. Release that baby out. You're lighter, you're brighter, you're cleansed.
I love it. It feels good, baby. It feels good.
Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did.
Oh, yeah.
Per usual, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Leah.
And we're signing off with two besitos.
From these potitos. Bro, I think it is a poop.